California, listening on KTLK. Hey, Laura, what's up? Laura, what's up?
Yes. Hi, how are you?
I am very well, thank you. What's up?
I'm just calling because I feel like I need to debunk the not all liberals are atheists and not all atheists are, Republicans. I think I've been kind of concerned because as a woman of faith, just, listening to Rick Perry and Bachman talk, I feel like they give, bad reputation to people that actually are Christians that are liberals. I think that Jesus was the ultimate progressive, and it's kind of really been bothering me lately. And I just kind of wondered your thoughts on it, since I know you're a man of faith. So,
well, I remember the bumper sticker from years ago. Jesus was a liberal. There's no other way to say it. And Pontius Pilate was a governor. Somebody called in earlier and said, Jesus was a community organizer. Pontius Pilate was a governor. It's true.
I'm reading Frank Schaeffer's Patience with God, and it's really been, really kind of sticking with me, because it's just kind of, when I watch anything and then I hear other people say, oh, all liberals are atheists, or, just those crazy Christians, I feel like going, yeah, but at the same time, I feel like I'm getting a bad name, and yet I'm a Democrat and totally, consider myself a Christian. So.
Sure. I think that it's important. You see, here's the danger, or here's the problem. Let me rephrase that. I think anybody who really understands the way that our government was put together understands that the founders and framers intended, and that it rightly should be, regardless of what they intended, that we have a secular democracy, that we have a nation that doesn't consider religion when it makes decisions. It considers the law, it considers, certain moral things as right or wrong that long pre-existed Christianity. I guarantee you 40,000 years ago, tribal people understood that it was wrong to kill, it was wrong to steal, it was wrong to, covet your neighbor's wife. You go through the list of things in the Ten Commandments, disrespect your parents. This nation was conceived as a secular nation and should be one. The Republicans made basically Ronald Reagan during the Reagan campaign. And then it really went on steroids in the George Herbert Walker Bush campaign, when he hired his son, George W. Bush, as the evangelical outreach director. They made a deal with the devil, with Jerry Falwell and Pat Robertson, in saying to these guys, we will start these faith-based initiatives. We'll start channeling enormous millions, it's now billions of dollars of federal money into religious organizations, churches and whatnot. And in exchange for that, we would like you to support our party. And this merging of the Republican Party and the far right Christian movement has become rigidified, and it's become part of our political landscape. At the same time, there are many Democrats who speak of faith, and there are many democratically oriented churches, principally in the African American community. Martin Luther King came out of that movement, although I'm not sure that he ever identified himself as a Democrat, but it has kind of moved in that direction. But there's also in the Democratic Party the clear understanding, which there used to be in the Republican Party. I mean, Richard Nixon never used religion against John Kennedy, for example. Kennedy was a Catholic, which was, there was a huge religious bigotry about that in this country at the time. Nixon didn't go there. He didn't do the dog whistle politics around religion. He was probably the last Republican not to do that. And so, and Democrats have tried to carry on that long tradition of Nixon and Eisenhower and LBJ and JFK and all the way back to George Washington, of not mixing religion and politics. And so they find themselves in the position of, because they're not thumping the Bible and they're not quoting Scripture constantly, they find themselves being painted by people like Fox News and right-wing commentators as atheists or people who hate religion. And the fact of the matter is that if you actually bother to, if you consider yourself a Christian and you actually bother to read, the Gospels, Jesus was a flaming liberal. I mean, read Matthew 6 and 7. I mean, the Sermon on the Mount. Read Matthew 25, where his disciples came to him and said, how do we get into heaven? And he said, you've got to feed the hungry. You've got to give water to the thirsty. You've got to visit those in prison unjustly. You've got to, provide clothing to the naked, which the modern day equivalent would be house the homeless. And you have to feed, and you have to heal the sick. And the disciples were totally freaked out, because they said, oh, then we're screwed. We're doomed. We'll never make it into heaven because we've never seen you that way. Because he said, you have to do this to me. And that's when he said, as you do to the least among these, your brethren, you've done unto me. In other words, do this for the poor. And the Republicans have completely turned their back on Jesus, on Christianity, on the greatest statement made in the New Testament, in the opinion of most biblical scholars, about what Jesus was really all about. And I agree with you. It's a horrible conundrum. And I don't know what to do about it.
How do those people, the people, the ones that really listen to Bachman or Perry, or just hear them use the word Jesus, and they get so excited, and then I just feel like, if they're such Christians, shouldn't they know the word just as much as?
Well, the tragedy is that they don't, and there's this hot new thing, particularly among evangelical Christianity right now, of prosperity. Prosperity religion, prosperity, there's a word for it that is escaping me. Prosperity theology, I think, or something like that, which is basically that if you're blessed by God, then you'll become rich. And if you're rich, then that's because you're blessed by God. And it's kind of a modern reinvention of the old Calvinist notion, or a notion that was adopted by the Calvinists. I don't think John Calvin was all that fond of it, but how do you know who God really loves? Oh, it must be the people with a lot of money, because that's, God's in charge of things here. And the Republicans have adopted this, and now it's even infecting, fundamentalist Protestant Christianity. And I find it very interesting that it's the Catholic Church that has been, the most outspoken in pushing back against that and defending the rights of the poor. It was Pope John Paul II who called up George W. Bush and begged him not to invade Iraq. It's, the Catholic Church has been identified as being, to the right because of the abortion issue, but the fact of the matter is that they've been very outspoken on issues of poverty, and they walk the talk. And I just the whole mess with Christianity, it troubles me. Laura, thank you very much for the call. We're out of time.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann